Hello everyone, this is Adam Shoemaker, Rector at St. Stephen's Episcopal Church in Charleston. Hope you're well. I am here to talk to you today about the film Field of Dreams that I thought I would do during this summer faith and film series, given that baseball is back. Last night was opening night, and today is opening day for my beloved New York Mets. Field of Dreams is a classic baseball film, a 1989 film starring Kevin Costner and James Earl Jones that I first saw when I was about 10 years old, and I have come back to many times since. It's a film that focuses on a character named Ray Kinsella, played by Kevin Costner, who builds a baseball field on his farm in Iowa because he hears a voice that tells him, if you build it, he will come. And this brings back his father's childhood hero, Shoeless Joe Jackson, and the film goes from there. There is so much to this film. It's a film not only about baseball, but about faith, about following your dreams, about redemption, about fathers and sons. But I would like to highlight a few features of the film pertaining to the life of faith. And the first thing that I'd like to comment on is that classic speech about baseball uttered towards the end of the film by the fictional character Terrence Mann, played by James Earl Jones. I once wrote a column on baseball in a newspaper when I served as rector in North Carolina. And in that column, I wrote this: America's national pastime has always been a passion of mine. I first fell in love with the game at an early age, thanks to childhood heroes like Darryl Strawberry and Gary Carter, Dwight Gooden, and Keith Hernandez. In time, I came to rise and fall inning by inning with my beloved New York Mets. Over the years, I have bonded with friends and strangers through the shared experience of our team's miraculous victories and crushing defeats. And I have talked through hopes and dreams, relationships and job searches, all while sitting in the bleachers of Shea Stadium, now Citi Field, with fellow fans. As the fictional character Terrence Mann once observed in the film Field of Dreams, for me, a constant through all the years has been baseball. Amid change and uncertainty, joy and sorrow, victory and defeat, baseball has marked the time. Religion, at its best, helps us to do just that, to mark the time and to remain hopeful in times of plenty and in times of adversity, especially in times of adversity. And this speech that Terrence Mann utters at the end of the film, trying to convince Ray to keep the baseball field on his farm, to become a field of dreams for other people, I think really speaks to the way in which baseball, like religion, helps us to mark the times, the pace, the rhythm, the way in which the communal experience out in the stands helps us to be mindful and attentive to what's around us, helps us to mark sacred moments in our life. And this, at its best, is what we try to do in the church, to help people to find a rhythm, to be aware of the presence of God amidst the ups and downs of our daily life. And I believe that that wonderful speech uttered by the actor James Earl Jones points us in that direction. Another thing that this film, Field of Dreams, highlights is what it means to be a faithful person. Ray Kinsella hears a voice. He hears a voice several times in the film that compels him to action. Those around him feel that he's crazy, that he's gone off his rocker, but he is compelled to not only build this field, but to pursue the character Terrence Mann and Moonlight Graham, and to do something, in his words, totally illogical that leads him to live a deeper and more meaningful life, and to be aware of his place in the created order, and appreciative of the presence of God in his midst. I'd like to read for you another piece I once wrote about baseball around the time that the Chicago Cubs won the World Series. After many, many years, my grandmother, Eileen Murphy, was a diehard Cubs fan and was a part of several generations in Chicago who lived and died cheering for the Cubs without ever seeing them win the World Series. And after they won that World Series, I wrote this column. And in that column, I talked about a Cubs fan who had some trepidation about the thought of the Cubs finally winning the World Series when they got back to the series. In that column, I wrote this: "There are plenty of mixed feelings in Chicago after the NLCS victory that finally sent the Cubs back to the World Series. Raymond Fuller, 38, captured it best when he confessed, 'I'm scared. My entire life, the Cubs have never been able to do this. If the Cubs end up winning the World Series, what it means to be a Cubs fan is going to change, and I'm not certain it is something to be valued. The moniker lovable loser, I hate it, but it means something. It's shared hope and disappointment. It means accepting loss and trying your best and not coming out on top. There's a part of me that doesn't want it to go away.'" And then I continue. "Faith is about learning to find beauty in the shared hope and disappointment of life. It's about learning to enjoy the journey, to live with humility and cultivate an appreciation for one's place in the created order. When my grandmother died, at her wake, we placed Cubs paraphernalia around the casket. We shed tears and shared stories of a life well lived. Cheering for the Cubs helped mark my grandmother's life of faith. Win or lose, the Cubs became a part of her story and connected her to a much larger story. She died without the opportunity to see the Cubs win, but she died as she lived in faith, hope, and love." And I believe that the character Ray Kinsella's journey throughout the film Field of Dreams helps to highlight what living a life of faith is all about. It can sometimes make others think that we have gone a little crazy. It can sometimes not make a whole lot of sense, but in the end, it gives our life meaning. It reminds us of our place in the created order and helps us to appreciate all the more the presence of God in our midst. A couple of times in the film Field of Dreams, Ray Kinsella is asked, first by Shoeless Joe Jackson and then by his father, "Is this heaven?" And Ray smiles both times and says, "No, it's Iowa." But at the end of the film, when Ray is with his long deceased father, that he is able at the end to reconcile with, Ray asks him, "Is there a heaven?" And his father says, "Oh yeah, it's the place where dreams come true." And then Ray looks at the beauty of the baseball field he's built, the beauty of the farm in twilight, the sound of his wife and his daughter laughing on the front porch of their house. And he says, well, maybe this is heaven. And I think that points us to a message that we can see again and again in the Gospels, that reminds us that the kingdom of God is breaking into this world even now. Sometimes we get too fixated on the life to come, but I believe that the Gospels invite us to focus on the here and now, to be mindful in our walk with God about what is right in front of us and to appreciate that. And I certainly believe that Field of Dreams reminds us of this. Lastly, I believe that this film reminds us of the communion of saints. One of my favorite days on the church calendar is All Saints Sunday, because it's a day in which we're reminded of all the saints of God, all the women and men who have gone before us, invites us to locate ourselves in that great cloud of witnesses, as the Bible puts it, that continues on after we are gone. Reminds us of the connection between the living and the dead. And certainly in this film, Field of Dreams, Ray Kinsella, through following the voices that he hears building that baseball field, he is able to bring back some of the heroes of ages past in the baseball world, and ultimately to bring back his father so that he can have a powerful reconciling moment. It also is a film that reminds us that God's ongoing work of redemption stretches beyond the grave, is something that continues on and on, reminds us of the Christian pattern of death and resurrection that continues on through eternity. Field of Dreams reminds us of this, and the game of baseball reminds us of this. Because no matter how bad things get for my beloved Mets, I can always trust that there will be another season, another game, another opportunity. There's so much more that could be said about this film. I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts about it. I hope it's a film that you enjoy as well. And I hope that you take some time to slow down this summer and to watch some baseball, maybe even watch the Mets. So see you at the ballpark and see you at the movies. Take care.